City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm making a layout using this cut file from the Paper Passion Posh Etsy shop, and this is the circles background. I have already backed it, as you could see. I didn't back the whole thing. I'm not sure if I'm going to back the little ones or not. I'll have to see, but I knew I wanted to back the larger circles. So I've backed that, and I used the colors from the August mood board. Uh, that's how I selected the colors that I backed it with. And I was really excited that the colors in this picture of my daughter, this is my older daughter from 2 years ago from the Magic Gardens in Philadelphia. And I thought the colors in this picture went really well with the colors in the mood board. And also the little fragments of glass were kind of mirrored in these divided circles. So that's my plan so far. I was also kind of thinking, now that I had the cut file on the paper with the photo, that I might be cutting another cut file, or at least portion of a cut file, and have it down here and connect, make it flow down from one side to the other in a diagonal. And I was kind of thinking that I might be able to use this in the layout. I'm not sure yet, though. I'll have to see. It might be a little bit too much. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mixed media background using a bunch of different sprays. Lindy's, Art Anthology, my Tattered Angels. I have some smooches. I've never used these before, and some Distress Oxides as well. So I'm going to get started on my background right now. I start my layout with a piece of 120-pound smooth white cardstock, and I have covered it with a layer of white gesso. Once that dried, I took my cut file and I traced around the outside of it so that I would know where I wanted the majority of my sprays to go. I do leave some of those circles in the cut file unbacked. I will say that I went back and backed one more of the circles, but for the most part, those same circles do still remain so that you could see through them. So I do put some sprays on the background where you can see them through the cut file. And I apologize for my paper being so far down on the screen and for it moves around my table quite a bit, but I do put it back in the frame. There you go. But I will say that it does move around a little bit. So I did pull out a lot of different sprays, and in the end, I mainly used my Distress Oxides. I used yellows. I used, for the blues on this one, I used Broken China and Mermaid Lagoon, and I'm just combining them and spraying them. I do dry my layout in between each application of color. For several reasons. First, so the colors don't, kind of bleed together or combine. Although that does happen a little bit with the Distress Oxides anyway. Some of those areas turned a little bit green, but it was more turquoise than a true green, so I was fine with that. But another reason is the layers of color become richer, particularly with watercolor sprays when you dry them in between, I think. So I do a lot of drying, but I don't show everything. I don't want to show myself drying everything all the time. That is not fun to watch. So now I am continuing to add my sprays, continuing to dry between layers. I add some red splatters. I didn't want to add large areas of red, but I did want to bring that red color into the background just to tie the color scheme together. I am adding a little bit of stamping. I use a background stamp and my archival ink just to add a little bit of texture to the background. I am using some watered down white acrylic paint here to make some splatters, and I add a lot of white splatters. I will often go back on a layout several times and add more and more white splatters. If you're very patient and you let your background fully dry, the white will show up better because it won't combine with the colors in the background, but I very rarely do that. I usually end up sprinkling on there very quickly. So I add a lot of white, and here I add a few sprinkles of black. Now I'm going to be backing my photo with some different colored pattern papers that coordinate with the background. Fairly recently, I organized all of my scraps. I organized them by color and I put them in envelopes that are meant for students to use as wipe off envelopes. I've seen a lot of crafters use them, and they had the outer edge in different colors. I found them on Amazon, so I use those to store all of my scraps now, and I find it so much easier to find the colors that I need quickly. So that's something that I was pretty happy that I took the time to do. So I have put some different colors of blue, a navy and a turquoise kind of blue, or a light blue, and I offset those slightly. And then I put a piece of red behind the whole photo so that it will contrast with the cut file in the background. So now that I have everything pretty much just where I want it. So I'm starting to attach everything with my ETG gun. And once I have that attached, I decide where I'm going to put my photo. I cut off the excess from the edges. I do go back and use a lot of that, and I'm just using my trimmer here to make it look a little neater and nicer. So I do like to back my photo with a little bit of cardstock when the pattern papers or whatever I use to back the photo, if I do back the photo with pattern papers, if they're not too thick. Because sometimes what happens is if I don't put the foam on all the way to the edge, which I do this time, but even when I do, a lot of times the page protector, once I put it in an album, will kind of bend down the corners of the picture, and I don't like that. So I do put a piece of cardboard behind my photo. And now I'm using my ATG gun to attach the photo to the background. Now those pieces of the cut file that I cut off do make their way back onto the layout. I hated to waste them to begin with, but I really thought that they did add some nice balance to the layout. So I attached those back on there. And now I'm putting some thread on the background. I struggled a little bit with what kind of embellishments I should use in the background because I wanted them to go with the theme of the photo, but I couldn't think what would make sense. So I used some different colored thread, and I don't think I've ever done it before. I might have tried it before. I don't know if I ever kept it on the layout before. I will say that I go back later and I do redo all this thread. The reason was that I left it on without gluing it down for too long, and then the thread just got kind of tangled, or it just didn't look as fresh as when I first put it on. So you'll see later on I do end up changing that thread out, but I still do include thread. So now I'm putting on my title. I have this pretty mirrored acrylic piece that I recently got from Joanne, and I'm just arranging that and adding some red jelly bean soup letter stickers so that it says love today. The next thing I'm going to do is search for embellishments. I have some jewels that I think will look really nice, and I play around with them for a long time trying to decide where to put the jewels. I do put some tiny rhinestones on there and a lot of different colored jewels. Some iridescent ones, some faceted ones, some translucent ones, all different types of jewels that had the same colors as the mood board. I ended up spending a really long time moving any of the embellishments that I had on the page around. So I thought it would just be best for me to just show you the end product instead of showing you footage of me moving them around and adding and taking away. So in the end, I have some different types of jewels, and I was really just going for the colors that I thought would match the pattern paper colors that I used with the cut file. And I also found in my stash, these are really, really old letters, and I wrote out Magic Gardens of Philly. And I didn't have all the letters, but I used my jelly roll, my white jelly roll, to add, let me see, for example, the magic, that was a Y, so I just made it into a G, and then I needed some L's. Those came out a little funky, but I feel like one might not notice them if I didn't point it out. I also wanted to include some of the color of the mirrored title, and so I put some little rhinestones just to bring this color into the layout, so this isn't the only thing that's this tone. And I add this little bottle from a little sticker book that I had. The place where we went, you can't really see it in this picture, but many parts of it you could see were made out of bottles. So that went with the color scheme, and it also went with the theme. That's my layout for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope if you liked this video, you'll give me a thumbs up, and I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. And thank you very much to all my current subscribers. I hope that everybody has a fantastic day, and I will see you again very soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.